Good morning. You're listening to the WTIM Pana Morning Show with Pana civic, business, and nonprofit leaders coming to you from our Taylorville studios. The WTIM Pana Morning Show is brought to you by our title sponsor in People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, along with your Pana Save Lot, Pizza Man, Norton's Hardware, Bob Riding's Pana, the Nokomis Dairy Queen, Pana Bowl, and the Okanee Chop Shop. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman, and joining us in this segment is Chief of Police Daniel Bland with the Pana Police Department. Good morning, Chief Bland. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, and thank you for coming on and filling us in on everything going down with you and with just the general activity and everything like that. And so let's start there with just a recap of the last month. If you would, just tell us a little bit about how the month of May was and kind of what came about from the last 30 days.
Well, we've naturally, with the weather increasing, with temperatures, activities around the community, it definitely ramps up responsibilities within police patrol, and but overall activity numbers as far as criminal activity, things of that nature, have been normal, I say, even actually a little bit less than the average when we normally see spikes in criminal activity of thefts and domestics and things of that nature. But over the last month or two, naturally, we've had the normal calls for service of domestics and things of that nature. We've made some arrests involving some thefts and burglaries. We work with the sheriff's office on a pretty good burglary case that involves some businesses out in the rural area. We've been busy, but nothing major, which we're thankful for. The major crimes and things of that nature we have not had over the last couple of months. So we're thankful for that, but yet we're just trying to be aggressive with, attacking problem areas. There's definitely some areas around our community and out the lake that are, drawing negative attention, and naturally they're on our radar. So we've been working in those areas to try to improve the neighborhoods and things of that nature. But we're thankful that we're balanced. For a community, we always we want to see numbers decrease per se. And not just because of low activity on our end, but yet we're hoping that the services, things we're doing over providing to the community, are reducing the recidivism and the repeated actions of criminals and things of that nature. So overall, though, it's been a busy start to the summer, leading out of schools ending with graduations. We had a lot of events there, and leading into the summer now with a lot of activities. So we've been staying busy.
I'm sure. And I'm thankful for you guys that there hasn't been any major crimes or anything really pulling resources, because I understand at this point, you're working with what you got. And so very glad on this end that there hasn't been one of those situations that has arose. And let's get into some of the summer months and some of those events that come with it. There are a few big ones as of even this week with the 4th of July. And then on July 26th, you've got the Kitchell Park Popcorn Festival, the second annual, being hosted. From the Pana Police Department side of things, how's that kind of look in terms of planning and preparing for those? And also, what are some of those maybe general tips or safety recommendations that you might have for the public out there?
Yes, for sure. Anytime there's events, which nearly every weekend in Pana, there's events, whether it's at the parks or downtown or something going on. But when you bring in larger events like the 4th of July or the Popcorn Festival, it increases traffic flow. So naturally, on our preparedness of these events, we look to just try to prepare for one, basic traffic flow, making sure things are operating smoothly. Safety needs, intel. Because anytime you increase more people in your community, there's additional things to watch for, crime deterrence, things of that nature that we always try to be ready for and plan ahead for. Our staffing and manpower, and where needs assessment of where we might need. For example, the 4th of July, naturally, you're going to have, the traffic in and out of the community for the fireworks, which is on July 3rd, Thursday, for us. But yet that will, that's going to be a busy time. But yet we try to educate people on, keeping your doors locked. Being patient is important. People get aggravated. We don't need road rage and aggravation of parking issues. Those are the basic low-level things, but still we get calls for service on, which then pulls us off of more important matters to where we're dealing with people arguing over, something that's petty to us, but yet can escalate into something more serious. So naturally we're trying to, just place guys strategically throughout events, whether they're in uniform, so they're more visible to the community and visitors, as well as just possibly, unmarked, civilian dressed officers if they need to be just placed, just to kind of monitor things and make sure everything's under control. Because our goal is for people to come in, have a great time, safe event, and get back home or get on out of town and have enjoyed their experience within Pana.
Yeah, and for you, the planning of it is something that up until taking on this job, I just did not think a whole lot of in terms of how many events have to be on your radar, how many things have to be on your radar to make sure that the community is safe or visitors of the community are safe in those regard. And so appreciate the road rage mentioned there as well, and a little bit of patience. That's a lost virtue in today's world for sure. So that's a look at some of the events and things coming up as well. And if you would, maybe we go back a little bit to last month's graduation, the ceremony, the commencement that took place with Safe Passage. And we go back to getting these people the support that they need, not just arresting them or trying to, get them to a place that they might not want to be. Let's get them to a place that maybe they can improve and grow. Safe Passage for you, how important is that program here in Christian County as a whole, but also just to you yourself?
Yeah, it's been vital as far as just increasing resources for those that are struggling, because the goal is stop recidivism, stop the cycle of negative consequence in that individual and family that are suffering. We want to stop just the continual in and out of the system, continual victims of crimes, continual, threats to officers, engaging in, dangerous situations. If we can somehow stop that cycle, and we've seen that, over the last, several years with resources being increased, the calls for service and the struggle itself, the numbers are decreasing throughout the county. And that's a result of these types of services with Safe Passage, with there's more recovery centers available, the court systems, putting pressure on accountability of following through with, testing and work preparedness. And so, yeah, and then the last commencement that I was able to attend, there's 5 graduates commencing into a new beginning, and 4 of the 5 actually were from Pana. One of them was one of the 4 is living in Taylorville, but we're super proud of them. But it just goes to show you there's 4 individuals where they were, in a cycle of struggle and at times chaos in their life, and gets involved in criminal activity and crime, and to route those individuals into a better opportunity and recovering their families and their kids and obtaining jobs, and they're turning out to be productive, citizens to society, as well as they're just healthy and they feel better. And so that was a good event to attend. And that's why we do what we do. We're not just wanting to lock people up and send them to prison forever. We want to solve the issue. And a lot of times it goes down to a core issue from way back in child experience to pain and suffering to dysfunction to you name it. And that results in addictions and chaos and choices that are consequential to your community, consequential to your families. And so the Safe Passage, the recovery, the courts, everybody realizing this, still holding accountability, because as mentioned in the commencement ceremony, Judge Paisley is one who will send someone to prison when they deserve it. But those who we can stop that cycle and provide services to change the behavior and give them resources, tools, things that can coping skills to where they won't turn to a vice or a destructive habit, but yet turn to counseling or turn to a church or family or friend, make better choices. That way you reduce the criminal activity in your community, and then your neighbors and your public events and your community is better off. And that is the goal of law enforcement and what we try to do.
So much mentioned there, but I agree with everything. And I've got to say the ceremony itself, it was a first for me. I had not been, and it was really touching. I think one of the more touching was a young man who had completed the program, who came around to his brother, who is currently in jail and is undergoing some things of his own right now, and just being with him and giving him that hug and wishing for him to turn to a better page and a better chapter in life. And man, it's a tearjerker. I recommend for anybody to actually go to those ceremonies and be a part of it for just even one of them. And I think it will change your viewpoint on addiction and the disease that it is. But
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's transparent. It shows the consequence, but the pain it causes. Nobody within that struggle will tell you, yeah, I like doing this. But to get out of it on your own is very difficult. And so when you see the recovery and the progress and the excitement and the reunification of family and restoration of family, that's very rewarding. And that's the goal of just, we want to make, our community safer and better. And that's a big factor in doing it.
And I'm very glad that it's kind of a pioneer program almost, and really kind of shaping the way other departments and other counties are moving forward with this type of treatment, rehabilitation, and things of that nature. I think the world of it. And so by what you've just told us here, I think we share a similar sentiment with that. And so joining us by phone today on the WTIM Pana Morning Show is Police Chief Daniel Bland of the Pana Police Department. We'll come back around with him. We'll talk more about things going on in Pana, some of which we'd like to just have a conversation about and fill you in on as well. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
Your information station, WTIM.
This is Angela Quinn with People's Bank and Trust, where customers have one consumer banker who knows them and provides the right financial services to achieve their financial goals. Your consumer banker is your single source of life's financial needs, from checking to consumer loans, from retirement accounts to mortgage loans, and everything in between. Call me at AAA-PBT 1954. Bank with People's Bank and Trust so you can spend your time living your life, not explaining it. People's Bank and Trust, we put people first. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hi, it's Brian Booth, and it's the final days of Buy Like an Employee at Bob Riding's Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram in Pana. Join us Saturday, June 28th for free snow biz, free food, and great deals. We have Ram trucks with an average savings of over $12,000 off MSRP. We have new Chrysler vans under $40,000, select Jeeps under $30,000. See us online at bobridingspana.com or come see us Saturday, June 28th in Pana. Cars and trucks are like eggs. They're cheaper in the country.
Hey DQ fans, nothing can make Father's Day more memorable than a DQ cake. Treat Dad, Pops, Pappy, or Papa to one of our delicious Fudge and Crunch cakes. Or get a cake in one of our other Blizzard treat flavors like Oreo cookie. Customize your DQ cake with a message that celebrates the big guy and all the wonderful things he does. Trust us, it's a lot more fun than a pair of socks or another wacky tie. Only at participating DQ locations, 100 South Oak in Nokomis and 333 West 2nd Street in Pana. Happy tastes good.
Looking for food, fun, and bowling? Head to Pana Bowl. We've got open bowling every Friday and Saturday night, perfect for family fun or a night out with friends. Don't miss our Tuesday and Wednesday special, unlimited bowling from 5 to 10 p.m. for just $9. Feeling hungry? Our kitchen's cooking up favorites Tuesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Visit PanaBowl.net or like us on Facebook for the latest deals and events. Pana Bowl, where the good times roll.
When it comes to connecting with America's farmers and ranchers, nothing beats the authentic voice of Ag Radio. Farm broadcasters have been the voice of rural America since 1944, building trusted relationships with agricultural producers across generations. Today, the network of over 140 ag radio stations reaches farmers and ranchers during their most productive hours when they're actively working their operations and making business decisions. What makes Ag Radio uniquely effective? Farmers listen to farm broadcasters for information that directly impacts their livelihood. When your message is delivered alongside crucial weather updates, market reports, and agricultural news, it receives the same attention and credibility. Farm Radio Connects offers agricultural advertisers targeted access to this engaged audience through professionals who understand both broadcasting and agriculture. According to the National Association of Farm Broadcasting, 78% of farmers consider information from farm broadcasters highly trustworthy. When you need to reach rural America effectively, choose the voices they already trust. Visit IllinoisFarmRadio.com and discover how Ag Radio can elevate your agricultural marketing strategy.
Your information station, WTIM.
More of the WTIM Pana Morning Show here on your information station. It's brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, along with your Pana Save-A-Lot, Pizza Man, Noren's Hardware, Bob Riding's Pana, the Oconee Chop Shop, Pana Bowl, and the Nokomis Dairy Queen. I'm your host, Grayson Bauman. Back around in this segment with us is Police Chief Daniel Bland of the Pana Police Department. We touched a little bit on the month of May and even a little bit of April as well, the activity that came from it, expecting the various events coming up in the community and also the Safe Passage program. We'd like to talk a little bit about an uptick in homelessness. We'd maybe like to kind of tell you a little bit about it here, and that's why Chief Bland is here to do so. What did you know, or what did kind of came up about a particular uptick in homelessness and just seeing folks more so on the streets in these summer months?
Well, naturally, with the weather changing, the temperatures, normalizing to where you could be out more often, that's when every city sees more people out moving, and then those who, they don't need the shelter per se for heat, and they tend to just, loiter more, be out in the public more, be more visible, and that's brought more attention to those in our area. And just over the last, couple months, we've seen an uptick, and especially in the last few weeks where we had several. When I say several, there might be 6 or 8, but that's a lot for our small community, being visible in the downtown area, being seen loitering, making campsites in areas that are unwelcomed, and so we've had to reach out and address those issues, because naturally, when the city's trying to entice business and investment in the communities, we don't want that struggle going on. So we try to find out why that's happening, who that individual is, and we've been able to, I think, resolve that or lessen that issue based upon some services that we've done over the last few weeks to address that matter. But it definitely came to our attention in the last few weeks.
Sure. And I would like to leave the floor to you with some additional time here, just about 3 minutes, to talk a little bit about the expectations that are placed upon you by the community as the Pana Police Department, whether it comes to arrests, investigations, how you make your move through the court system. If you would, can we touch on that a little bit and what those expectations are and how to maybe curb some of those a little bit?
Well, it's important for the community, because when they don't live in our world, it's hard to understand the process of what goes down throughout an investigation and accountability, because naturally that's usually what we get, complaints from citizens, people, problem issues, and for us to address it, we've got to establish facts, the criminal statutes, Illinois statutes, there's guidelines for us. So it's important for the public to realize the importance and the necessity for officers to be thorough in their investigation, gather facts, gather evidence. Many times there's surveillance evidence, forensic evidence, witness statements. So sometimes when we understand when victims of crimes are frustrated, hurt, and they call for a service from the law enforcement community, we step in. Often they're frustrated, like, how come this guy's not, this person, they're not in jail or they're not here or there yet? Well, sometimes it takes a little bit more time to put together a stronger case to make sure once it gets into the system, we have a strong case to hold accountability. Naturally, we're not going to proceed forward unless we have enough probable cause and evidence to move forward. But yet there is tremendous work done. And sometimes, when you're smaller community and resources are limited, it takes longer to work a burglary or work a theft, or if there's prowlers in your neighborhood, and locate prowlers and trespassers. And we can't just, I got a complaint, I'll go lock the guy up. Once it hits the court system, it's our responsibility and the oath we took to make sure that the laws are followed and the procedures are followed and there's thoroughness, and the courts can establish the facts and evidence to either prove someone's guilty or not. So it's not just an hour TV episode of a crime being committed and we're going to solve it, move on. And so that's important for the community to realize that we're out there working, but sometimes it takes a little longer than what they realize.
Well, and if it were you or a family member or friend, you would want a thorough investigation. You would want every, I dotted and T crossed. You would want everything in that regard.
Absolutely.
Kind of goes back to patience again, being a bit of a virtue.
Yes, but yes, you can't forget the victims in crimes are frustrated. They're hurt.
Nope.
Often they feel re-victimized because accountability is not being held.
Yes.
And so it's up to us to make sure we have a strong case and send it through the court system to allow them to do their part. But sometimes it takes longer than what we want, even in law enforcement. But yet it's important for us to follow all the steps needed.
I am very sure. Well, Police Chief Daniel Bland of the Pana Police Department joining us here on the WTIM Pana Morning Show. Chief Bland, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You
Have a
got
good
it. You're listening to WTIM, your information station.
WTIM.
Series of Democratic amendments, one by one. The process they call a vote.